Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into an updated look at my predictions for the college football playoff here as we enter week number 10. So we are coming up on almost 3/4 of the way through the season, the regular season, I should say, and we're going to have the first college football playoff committee rankings coming up next week. And let's take a look at where we stand right now. These are the full final predictions, the final record, everything. Right now, I do have Ohio State still sitting at number one overall. The Buckeyes, analytically, according to Vegas, are the number one team in college football. They do not have the best resume, but they do have the most overall dominant wins in terms of efficiency and things of that nature. So Ohio State would be around 2.5 3-point favorites over Indiana if the Big Ten championship game happened tomorrow. They would be favorites over any other team on a neutral field. And look, you could say they haven't faced the greatest of schedules. It's been all right. I mean, they have no crazy big win like Indiana does, but Ohio State is the number one overall team right now in this projection. They have the Michigan game. They've got the Michigan game. We know Ryan Day struggles with that, but they're going to be about 9-point favorites going into that game. So you would have to favor them, but who knows? At number two, it's Alabama at 12-1. So in this scenario, Bama wins out. They win the SEC championship. They would have a crazy resume. They've already got a crazy resume with all the ranked wins. I think Bama they do have flaws. Ohio State has flaws as well, but it's just like, I don't think the Bama is this great team or like a Nick Saban type team. They're solid, and they may win the SEC in close fashion. I mean, we saw them against South Carolina. They almost lost that game outright, but they do have the talent. And if they finish 12-1 with that resume, I think they would be in front of Indiana, because in this scenario, Indiana would not have a conference championship. Bama would have way better wins than Indiana, a way better resume, a worse loss for sure, because Indiana's only loss would be to Ohio State. But in this scenario, Indiana wins out, Ohio State wins out. They're both 12-0. It's probably a 1v2 matchup in the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State beats Indiana. Honestly, does it even matter? Maybe for Indiana, it's better if they lose to Ohio State. We saw what happened last year, Ohio State suffering the losses and getting better because of it and adjusting some things. So who really knows? I mean, that's kind of the reality when it comes to some of these conference championships. They're not the most meaningful. But Indiana still gets a first round bye. They get separated on the other side of the bracket from Ohio State. At number four, it's another SEC team. So you've got two Big Ten teams, two SEC teams getting all four of the byes. It's Texas A&M. So Texas A&M can finish 12-0. I mean, think about it. Texas A&M could go undefeated in SEC play. Alabama could go undefeated in SEC play. They meet in the SEC championship. If Texas A&M wins, they're going to be number two. That's if Ohio State wins and they're undefeated. I don't think they'd pass Ohio State. If Bama wins, A&M would probably drop down to number four. They'd fall to 12-1 if A&M wins the rest of their games. Now, A&M, they do have Texas on the schedule. I don't think they have any other crazy, I don't know, maybe they have one other tough opponent, but if A&M does go 12-0, lose to Alabama, I still think they do get that first round bye. They're the number four team. It's Ohio State, Bama, Indiana, A&M. That's if it goes cookie cutter. Now, Ohio State, what if they lose to Michigan? Then Ohio State, I don't even think they make the Big Ten championship. What if Texas A&M loses another game in the regular season? Maybe they don't even make the SEC championship. Or I guess they would be losing their first game because they're undefeated right now. But, this is just as cookie cutter as it can be for the end of the season projections based off of point spreads and things of that nature. At number five, you've got Texas Tech. This is just, who really knows? Texas Tech, I have them running the table. I think Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12. I do. So they run the table. They go 12-1. They win the Big 12 championship. People think they might lose to Kansas State this week, but I think Texas Tech, they have the quarterback injury. They've got the best defense, possibly, like in terms of rate numbers, the best defense in college football. I know people say Ohio State. I do think Ohio State overall is better, but they've got a really good defense. They've got the most elite team by far in the Big 12. That doesn't mean they're going to win the Big 12. If they have another loss, they're probably done. That's just how the Big 12 is. But I think they're the best team pound for pound in the Big 12. Analytically, Texas Tech is. Doesn't mean they're going to win the Big 12. They might lose another game. They lost to Arizona State. I think they're a better team than Arizona State, but they lost. So that's just kind of how it is. But I think if Texas Tech wins out, they would have to be 5 or 6. They'd have to be pretty high because that's a 12-1 Power 4 champ. At number 6, you've got Ole Miss sitting at 11-1. So in this scenario, Ole Miss loses a singular SEC game and doesn't make the SEC championship because Bama would be undefeated in SEC play and Texas A&M would be undefeated in SEC play. You look at Ole Miss's schedule; they lost to Georgia, but then they just beat Oklahoma. They've got relatively easy games. They've got the Citadel, they've got Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl on the road. That's probably their toughest game. They've got Florida at home. They've got South Carolina at home. They have an easy schedule. They finish 11-1. They would try and argue maybe to be ranked 5th in front of Texas Tech. You could maybe say resume-wise, but Tech would have the Big 12 championship victory in a 12-1 scenario if that's the record. So I have Ole Miss at number 6. But a lot of people, they're going to be predicting Ole Miss to go 11-1 because you look at their last 4 games, or do they have 5 games left? Maybe they have a bye week or something, but their last 4 games are very, very easy. And that's why people think they're going to go 11-1. They lost to Georgia. Them at 11-1, they're not going to make, if A&M and Bama win out, they're not going to make the SEC championship because A&M and Bama are undefeated and they don't face each other. So you have that. You've got Oregon at number 7. Now, why does Oregon fall down a little bit? Well, Oregon does not have a good resume. They just don't. It's a bad non-conference play, or bad non-conference schedule, I should say, combined with Oregon. I mean, now to be fair to Oregon, they've got Iowa on the road. I think Iowa's like a top 25 team. They face Iowa in a few weeks. They face Washington on the road. They face USC. So Oregon, maybe they move up. They go 11-1, maybe they move up. It's possible. They've got the loss to Indiana. That's a challenge for them to make the Big Ten championship. They're not going to make it. Indiana, even if they lose the game, is going to have the head-to-head over Oregon. So then Oregon would hope for some type of 3-way tie or some type of tie, or maybe what happens is Michigan loses to someone, so they have 2 Big Ten losses, but then Michigan beats Ohio State, so Ohio State has 1 Big Ten loss, and then it's a 1 Big Ten loss Ohio State versus a 1 Big Ten loss Oregon, and I don't know who would get in that scenario, but that's the Oregon's path to the Big Ten championship. The problem for Oregon, I think, is if it's a 3-way tie with Ohio State and Michigan actually makes it over Ohio State and Oregon, even though Ohio State and Oregon are better teams. But Oregon they really don't have a great wins. I mean, 11-1. I will say if they beat Iowa, that's going to be a quality win on the road. You beat Washington, you beat USC. Okay, now it's a better resume. But are they really going to be ranked above Ole Miss even if they're 11-1 and Ole Miss is 11-1? Maybe they should be. I mean, they certainly have the analytical numbers to be ranked above Ole Miss. But I did switch and I put Ole Miss above Oregon. Maybe I should change that back. I don't know. At number 8, I've got Miami at 12-1. I just can't predict the ACC. I think Miami's probably going to lose another game. Personally, it's very similar to the Big 12. I think Miami head and shoulders in terms of roster talent is better than every other team in the conference, but you just don't know what you're going to get from Miami. Miami has a road game at the end of the season at Pittsburgh. It's going to be cold weather. I think they probably lose it. Pittsburgh's been playing really well on offense, and if they lose that game, they might not even make the ACC championship. Like, the ACC, to me, they need Miami to win out because at least you'll get like a solid team in the playoff. I think Miami for sure would host the game, so they'd have to be a top 8 seed because they're a 12-1 ACC champ. But the thing with Miami is they've already have the 1 conference loss, and Louisville has the tiebreaker over them. And Louisville right now, what are they, 6-1? I don't even think Louisville has an ACC. Does Louisville have an ACC conference loss? I'm not sure. I know they have 1 loss overall, but Miami, I have no clue what to say about the ACC. If they lose again, who makes it? Virginia? There's no way Virginia's making it. I guess Louisville. I guess the winner of the ACC. Who would even be in the ACC championship at that point? It's hard to even know. So I'm just gonna say Miami makes it. I don't. They might lose to Pittsburgh though. They really could. They could lose to SMU even, but I don't think they will. So I'm gonna say Miami. And you could argue maybe Miami should be ranked a little bit higher here than number 8. Georgia at number 9 at 10-2. Yeah. So Georgia at this point is. I mean, they have a pretty good resume. This is like a cookie cutter SEC team finishing with 2 losses. If you're 10-2 and you're in the SEC, you're going to make it. It just is what it is. So you're 10-2 and Georgia is going to have a good resume. Maybe they get a win over Georgia Tech. That would be a ranked win, possibly a top 10 win. That's a neutral site game for them. So that's another resume builder for them. And that would be the argument. Will Georgia host a playoff game or not? It's like the Tennessee, back last year when they were the number 9 seed. That's where Georgia is. At number 10, Notre Dame. So Notre Dame's going to have an argument. Should they host a playoff game? They just don't have the quality wins. Notre Dame has 2 really good losses to Miami and to A&M, but Notre Dame does not have the wins, and that's going to be their issue in terms of trying to get like a top 8 seed to be able to host a game. So I think Notre Dame will make it at 10-2, and they certainly are like 20-point favorites in pretty much every game remaining. If you guys don't know Notre Dame's schedule, it's very easy. The rest of the season schedule, that is. At number 11, it's Tennessee. People are going to be pissed. How could you do this? Another SEC team. What do you want me to do? You want me to put BYU in? You want me to put Georgia Tech in? It's like, I don't know, man. If SEC teams finish 10-2, they're going to make it. I mean, unless there's like a log jam of like, I don't even know what it would be. 11-1 teams, 12-1 teams. The way it works out with these other conferences is really, it's very hard to predict because you don't know who has the tiebreakers, who's going to make the conference championships. If they lose the conference championship game, how much does that devalue them as a team? So Tennessee has a very manageable schedule. They just beat Kentucky. If they beat who is it, Oklahoma? I mean, the thing was with Tennessee, they have no big wins, but they beat Oklahoma. Maybe that'll be a good win for them. At number 12, it's Memphis. I don't know about the group of 5. I mean, you've got Tulane, you've got South Florida, Memphis. It's just like flip a coin when it comes to group of 5 at this point. Navy is not going to make it. People keep saying that. And then looking at the others in the hunt, USC. So these teams in the Big Ten, they none of them can lose. USC has to win out. They have a game at Oregon. They have a game at Nebraska. They're probably not going to win out. Michigan, they have to win out. They finished 10-2. Yeah, you'll get a 4th Big Ten team in, but they have the game against Ohio State. Sure, they've beaten Ohio State. I get it. But you can't rely on that when you're 9.5, 10-point underdogs. Washington, it's a Hail Mary. Iowa, I mean, they are 6-2, so if they finish 10-2, but Iowa faces Oregon. And I don't know who else Iowa faces, but I mean, they face Nebraska at the end of the season. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see the Big Ten getting 4 teams in. It's just not realistic unless Michigan somehow beats Ohio State and wins out. Then they finish 10-2, and then, yes, they get 4 teams in. The SEC, Missouri, I've never been a big believer in Missouri. They already have 2 losses. They have no margin for error. Vanderbilt has 1 loss. I think they're going to lose 2 more games. Oklahoma already has 2 losses. Texas already has 2 losses. Those are teams I think they're going to be eliminated with 1 more loss. They've got no room for error. The ACC, Virginia, I don't know how Virginia still only has 1 loss. It's one of the more flukier things in college football right now. Georgia Tech, okay, you could say, well, Georgia Tech should make the playoff because they're 8-0. And if you want to switch Georgia Tech and put them in front of Tennessee, I mean, I guess what is the scenario? The problem for Georgia Tech is they face Georgia at the end of the season. So let's say they lose to Georgia, they finish 11-1, then they lose the ACC championship. They're 11-2. Are they going to make the playoff at 11-2 in the ACC? Where are their big wins? So I don't know about Georgia Tech making it. And then Louisville, they have 1 loss. I think it's just unlikely. I just don't think they're that good of a team. The Big 12, BYU, they're undefeated. They've got a road game at Texas Tech. I think that's a loss. And then they think they've got another tough game. So I think BYU could finish 10-2. They might not even make the Big 12 championship. But again, this is another one of those teams. So let's say they're 11-1, they make the Big 12 championship, then they finish 11-2. They're going to make the playoff at 11-2 over a 10-2 Tennessee. I don't know about that. Utah, I think Utah is a good team. Utah is a team that they could win the Big 12. I would have to see the tiebreakers and things like that. But Utah is playing really good right now. And they did have the really bad game against Texas Tech early in the season. But still, Cincinnati, they have 1 loss. So you throw them in there. Although I don't think it's likely. They've got a few tough games. I think they're going to lose at least 1. Group of 5, you've got South Florida and Tulane and Navy as well. I think it's like South Florida or Tulane if it's not going to be Memphis. But I would say probably it's still going to be Memphis in looking at this. So yeah, right now these would be the projections. I mean, you could sub out if you wanted to. You could sub out that 5th SEC team, Tennessee, and put in a team like BYU. Maybe BYU at a, what would it be, 12-1? I don't think BYU is going to go 12-0 though. That's the problem. Like Tennessee has a legit possibility. They've got a legit chance of going 10-2 because the rest of their games they're going to be favored in. BYU has that game at Texas Tech, and then I think they have other tough games as well. And then like other teams like Virginia, am I going to put Virginia in the playoffs? There's no way. Am I going to put like the teams that have realistic chances would be BYU. Maybe you could argue Utah if they run the table, and I think they can because they've just got a really good team. And then who was it? BYU, Utah, and Georgia Tech. BYU, Utah, or Georgia Tech, I would say. If you don't want to go with another, you could say, well, Georgia Tech should be number 11. Well, I don't even know what the scenario would be in that. What would it be? Georgia Tech. I guess if Georgia Tech goes 12-0, I don't think they're going to go 12-0. So either way, guys, that's just an update on the playoff predictions. Make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Links to that's always in the description.